Today, I want to do something a little different and run through three recent pieces of research that, taken together, tell a pretty important story about where I believe marketing is headed. So, one is from Ross Simmonds from Foundation Inc. on Reddit's growing power in B2B SaaS search. One is from Cyrus Shepard of Zippy Signal on Google click signals and why they still matter, even in the age of AI answers. And the third one is from Wil Reynolds of Seer Interactive, who ran a very real world experiment on how AI surfaced a single old negative review about Seer again and again in branded prompts. And no, these are not all equally formal. Ross's piece is the most dataset heavy. Cyrus is doing synthesis from patents, trial testimony, and the Google leak. And Wil's is more of a field experiment on his own brand. But the reason I wanted to put them together is that they all point in the same direction. Search is no longer just about your website ranking. It is increasingly about whether platforms, users, and AI systems can find enough evidence to trust, repeat, and recommend you. So let's start with Ross. Ross analyzed over 8,000 keywords across 14 SaaS or software as a service domains and found that in 3 of 4 verticals, Reddit outranked every vendor simultaneously on 50 to 66% of shared keywords. Even worse, 77% of Reddit's winning search volume came from generic category terms, not just best, review, or alternative keywords. And on longer queries, 6 words or more, Reddit's win rate jumped to 73 to 100% across verticals. So that matters because a lot of marketers still think about Reddit like it's just siphoning off listicle traffic or comparison intent traffic. And Ross is basically saying, no, it's bigger than that. Reddit is not only winning on the obvious best CRM software type of searches, it's also showing up across broader, more generic, often high intent searches. It is competing before the buyer even gets to your polished vendor page. And that connects to something SparkToro has been talking about for a while now, which is that platform-based discovery isn't replacing traditional search so much as it is reshaping or influencing what people encounter inside it. In the Datos State of Search report, traditional search stayed remarkably stable, while zero-click behavior kept growing, and Reddit remained one of the top external destinations from search in both the US and Europe. So the first takeaway is not go spam Reddit. Please don't do that. The takeaway is that third-party discussion is now part of your search surface area. So whether you participate or not, Reddit can become the page that shapes perception before your site ever gets a shot. Now, let's go to Cyrus. Cyrus's big argument is that clicks still matter. Not in the old school, just juice click-through rate way. No, he's very explicit that the goal is not high click-through rate at any cost. The goal is relevance, usefulness, and satisfaction. He points to concepts like good clicks and last longest clicks from patents, the API leak, and the antitrust trial, and he argues that Google appears to learn from whether people click, engage, and stop searching. So that's an important distinction because a lot of people hear zero click and they think it means clicks no longer matter. That's not what zero click means. Zero click means fewer clicks are going to your site, right? It does not mean user behavior has stopped informing the systems that decide what gets seen. In fact, Cyrus argues almost the opposite. AI answers can reduce clicks to websites while still relying on click-shaped search systems underneath. He notes that Google calls anchors, body text, and clicks 3 fundamental signals, and that AI overviews and AI mode often summarize top-ranking results that were surfaced, at least in part through those same systems. So that should reframe the job for marketers. The job is not win the click in isolation. The job is to look like the result that deserves the click, then satisfy the visit so completely that the user does not need to keep searching. Cyrus even frames it as relevance, usefulness, and satisfaction. And again, this lines up with broader behavior shifts. SparkToro and Datos found that a growing share of searches end without a click, and Rand Fishkin notes that the new normal is still in the low 40s for desktop Google searches sending traffic outside Google in the US. So yes, clicks matter, but they matter inside a system where you may get fewer of them and where the winners are often the pages, brands, and discussions that best resolve intent upstream. And then there's Wil's piece, which I think is maybe the most visceral one of the three. So Wil writes that one old negative review from 2018, so like 8 years ago, repeated across multiple sites, was showing up in at least 1 in 3 branded search prompts, branded prompts about Steer. So his point is not that the review was representative. His point is that AI did not care. The model found repeated third-party language and treated that as signal. That's brutal, but it is useful because it exposes the fantasy a lot of brands are clinging to, which is, well, people know us, our customers know us, the truth is out there. That's cool, but is it published? Right? Because if it's sitting in Slack, in finance, in HR, in internal decks, or it's just anecdotal customer love, then it may as well not exist for AI. Wil's team responded by publishing actual retention data, interviewing internal stakeholders, and asking clients for reviews. He says their 79.2% team member retention rate started getting cited quickly. And after just 2 citations, some LLM outputs stopped repeating the high turnover claim. But he's also very honest that the fix was not durable. The citations faded, the misconception, it can still return. But his conclusion is that a single blog post is not a long-term fix, and that brands need an easier-to-cite, updatable source of truth. So that part really matters, because the lazy interpretation of GEO right now is something like, oh, okay, let's crank out more listicles and comparison pages. Wil's point is much more grounded than that. If you do not publish defensible facts about yourself, third-party content can define you. And once AI starts synthesizing that stuff, a single weird artifact can become the story faster than most brand teams are prepared for. So, what do these 3 pieces say together? Ross says the open web is not just your website anymore. Reddit and other third-party surfaces are taking over meaningful chunks of buyer discovery. Cyrus says user behavior still trains the machine. Clicks, engagement, and satisfaction still seem to shape what search systems elevate, including the systems that feed AI answers. Wil says if your brand does not publish credible, specific evidence about itself, AI may synthesize whatever scraps it can find and call that the truth. So putting all that together, here's my takeaway. So what I think is we're moving from an era of rank my page to an era of we need to influence the evidence layer. And that evidence layer includes your website, yeah, but it also includes reviews, forums, discussions, search snippets, branded facts, third-party mentions, and the pages AI systems find easiest to cite and summarize. That is why zero-click marketing matters. It's not because traffic is dead. It's not because clicks don't matter. No, it's because influence now happens across a messier, more distributed surface area than most analytics setups can measure cleanly. SparkToro's own research keeps showing that search remains deeply entrenched, AI is becoming mainstream, and zero-click behavior continues to grow. So, if I were a marketer listening to this, here's what I would do. I would stop treating Reddit reviews and third-party commentary as side noise. I would audit what evidence exists about my brand online, and then I would publish more concrete facts, especially the ones only my company can credibly provide. And I would spend less time obsessing over how do I get the click and more time asking, do I look like the best answer before, during, and after the click? Because more and more so, that's the game. And I think that brands that understand that early and can move faster are going to have a real advantage. So anyway, those research, investigative, and experimental pieces, those hit my desk like last week, past couple days. And so I wanted to share them with you. So check out all their work and please, yes, actually read it, right? Read Ross's, Cyrus's, and Wil's articles. They're free, and I've linked to them here in the show notes. And I'll see you next week on Zero Click Marketing.